Hello, I'm Phil Swimley, here again with another attempt to explain my conviction that mechanics are the major culprit for the epidemic of pitchers' injuries in baseball. So the question today is, can we learn anything from the tennis serve that will relate to the problem? But first, it's been suggested that it might be helpful if I would review the background for what I'm trying to say. I started this whole process when Tim Lincecum was entering the draft. The scouts agreed that he was going high in the first round, but some feared that his stressful-looking mechanics might be a problem. There were also conflicting opinions on how a guy this size could throw so hard. Long story short, I got video from Ken Knutson, Tim's coach at Washington, and then consulted Mont Hubbard, a professor of engineering at UC Davis, to see if he could help from his point of view. Dr. Hubbard's response was that this might be fun and that we might be able to use the video to look for support structures that might be supporting rapid change of direction, acceleration, and/or deceleration. We see here the split screen clip he was kind enough to send. He starts by breaking his hands low and takes the ball down to knee level. From here he swings well back, creating a long, smooth, almost 180-degree acceleration toward release. We can get a better look from here. The ball smoothly accelerates in an almost perfect arc, with the hand and ball staying behind the elbow until release. There's very little energy wasted from start to finish. So at this point we felt the arm mechanics were not a problem. As we moved toward the question as to how he threw so hard, things got a bit more complicated. As a pitcher approaches delivery, his objective is to use all the parts available to create as much momentum as possible that can be transferred to the hand speed at release. We found Mr. Lincecum to be pretty good at it. He initiates his forward momentum from behind the rubber. Let's first take a closer look and note a few points that may matter. As the linear momentum toward the plate develops, his legs and trunk are rotating back. Here the hips begin to lead the shoulders, and the shoulders and hips are turned almost 90 degrees from the plate. As the linear momentum continues to increase, the stride leg is fully extended. His stride leg continues to swing in a wide arc as he flexes his back knee almost to a sitting position. In this frame, there are several things to note. He is driven from the seated position forcefully enough to be airborne. Both feet are off the ground. The hips are rotated well ahead of the shoulders, and the glove side arm is on a plane with the throwing arm and extended back over the back knee. At release, we see the throwing arm extended about 90 degrees from the spine, and the glove side arm flexed and still on plane with the throwing side. He exhibits a full follow-through, using a complete range of motion to decelerate. So now the question is why? Why do his mechanics generate such high velocity? The first reason may be that he starts from behind the rubber. This gives him the maximum distance allowed to create momentum to foot plant. Moving from A to B, he uses gravity to add to the increasing momentum. Here his center of mass is well ahead of his pivot foot and moving with increasing speed. This is before he begins his knee extension. The result is that the previously generated momentum is added to the potential of the leg drive. There's another point to take note here. The extended knee and the hips and shoulder rotation back creates several advantages. The knee extension moves the center of mass to the arm side. It creates the distance to increase the rotational momentum, and it also creates enough time for his long, smoothly accelerating arm swing. Three things here. Sitting to almost 90 degrees gives him maximum range for the knee to extend and increase momentum. The stride knee is still extended, keeping the center of mass outside the stride line and setting up a wide-angled approach to foot plant. The third thing to note, the glove arm is extended and approaching shoulder height. As he approaches foot plant, the shoulders and hips have rotated almost 90 degrees. The arm is just now moving back and up, and the glove is above the shoulder line. As a testament to his leg drive and the amount of momentum he's generated, there's a point here where he is totally airborne. The foot strike is where everything comes together. It creates a pivot point that positions the already gained momentum, both linear and rotational, to be added to the potential from the trunk. He maximizes that potential by getting into a position that golfers would be proud of, an almost 90-degree separation between shoulders and hips. They call it the X factor and strive to get to 90. The next point here has to do with timing. The hand and ball are above the pivot point of the shoulder, a position that directs the momentum to the positive side of the rotation. The significance of this point may be shown here. The clips on the right, even though the frames are not quite in sequence, show that later in his career the legs were ahead of the shoulders and arm at foot plant. The momentum is now directed below the pivot point in the shoulder, requiring energy to be diverted to gain the height necessary to get on the positive side. As he approaches release, Mr. Lincecum also used a technique popular with golfers to increase clubhead speed. They push against the ground to create reaction forces that generate torque and acceleration of the club, much like the snapping of a towel or a whip. Mr. Lincecum, after foot plant with a flexed front knee, approaches release by extending the knee and forcing his lead hip straight back, maximizing the effect. There's one final thing. After starting from behind the rubber, using the maximum distance allowed to create momentum, using a long acceleration arc to generate hand speed, using his extended stride knee to not only create momentum, but to move the center of mass to the arm side for better leverage for rotation. He also makes a near perfect use of the glove side arm to add to the rotational forces already generated. From a mechanic's point of view, the glove side arm can enhance, be of no use, or even hinder rotation. Here we see an enhancement. There's an extended arm that has been rotated to very near the release point. The lever arm is then shortened to transfer its momentum to speed rotation, much like skaters do. He completes his pitch with a long deceleration, and without evidence of a rapid or short distance acceleration or change of direction that would be a warning signs for injury to his arm. One concern that we did have was the forces absorbed and reversed by his hip and knee might be a problem. Otherwise, he was good to go. After my experience with Dr. Hubbard, I decided to see if the guys who were being injured demonstrated any of the stress points we were looking for. Mark Pryor was a high-profile example at that time, and this is what I found. Relative to Lincecum, the hips and shoulders were not rotated back nearly as far, and the stride leg was flexed, which shortened the backswing by almost 90 degrees. Here's where we begin to see a big difference. The arm swing is shorter, with the shoulder joint rotated fully inward, and the hand and ball moving forward and above the elbow. The hand and ball continue to move forward to a point right behind the ear. The vertical line just behind his ear marks a fixed point in space, so we can see that as he moves forward, the hand and ball are actually moving back away from release point. We now have the support structures in the shoulder and elbow supporting not only the shoulder reversing from fully inward to outward, but the forearm and ball changing directions. So now we have what we have determined to be stress producers: rapid change of direction and a short, rapid acceleration. These points might not have been what caused Mr. Pryor's problems, but they certainly added to the stress on his arm and shoulder. The difference between these examples and almost all of the injured pitchers starts about here. When the elbow is flexed and the shoulder is extended behind the shoulder line. This movement is the stress generator. The shoulder is going from totally rotated inward to hyperextended outward. This move creates a leverage force against the support structures in both the shoulder and elbow that has to be immediately reversed to make the throw. The coaching point here is that you can avoid this stress by keeping the ball behind the elbow until release. Here's another example just for emphasis. A high percentage of the injured guys have similar mechanics. At least to me, we need a further look. So let's take a quick review of Lincecum's long 180-degree on-plane acceleration and compare it to a couple of our tennis guys, who in order to win a tournament must serve on an average of about 100 serves per match 7 times in 14 days, or the equivalent of 100 pitches every 2 days for 2 weeks. I searched the web and found that arm surgery for pro tennis players is virtually non-existent. What we're seeing here is almost identical to Lincecum. The forward acceleration phase starts with the shoulder rotated fully outward and the hand and racket well behind the elbow. As he moves to contact, there has been a continuous, smooth, on-plane acceleration to complete the swing. There are some interesting points about how they're using their body, but the arm mechanics, to me at least, make the point that if you can swing a heavier object with added leverage, avoid serious injury to the shoulder and arm, you must be doing something right. To further illustrate my point, I challenge anyone to place a tennis racket in their hand in this position, arm parallel to the ground and the palm of the hand facing down, and then try to throw without seeing this as a serious problem. For more or to share your comments, please go to practicebaseballtowin.com.